In this video, I'm going to share about the mindset you need to get in and stay in and win in your marriage. And this mindset is what I like to call the winner mindset. Now, this kind of mindset will enable you to stay and keep winning in your marriage. In fact, with the winner mindset, you will be able to overcome extremely challenging situations in your marriage because these kinds of situations will come. Is only a matter of when, not any other. And so I want, without any further ado, to jump right into the winner mindset that you need to get in and stay in and win in your marriage. And I'm going to be using the mindset that David had when he took up Goliath's challenge to a fight and he fought him. And of course, you know that David won that fight. First, I want to begin with 1 Samuel 17:22 to 24. And it reads as follows. And David left the things in charge of the keeper of the baggage and ran to the ranks and went and greeted his brothers. As he talked with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, came up out of the ranks of the Philistines and spoke the same words as before. And David heard him. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were much afraid. Now, marriage has been made to look very intimidating, like Goliath, but it really isn't. And the published bad reports aren't doing the good image of marriage any good. And that's why, this institution, everybody is viewing it as a bad institution. I also don't believe that, God created marriage to intimidate or create great fear in you. So if you're planning to marry, if you're planning to get married, I don't think you need to fear. Just follow the right path and it will be well with you. And if you're already in marriage, like myself, you don't need to have even a mustard seed of fear. You can win in marriage, you can stay in marriage, and you can give a good testimony at any point in your marriage. But before I continue, please take a second and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to like this video because this will be your special way of supporting my ministry. You're also welcome to leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you and get that feedback that is coming direct from you. And also share this video with someone so that they can be able to, develop that winner mindset in their marriage too. Moving on. And secondly, 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 25 to 30 reads as follows. And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come up to defy Israel. And the king will enrich the man who kills him with great riches and will give him his daughter and make his father's house free in Israel. And David said to the men who stood by him, what shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? And the people answered him in the same way, so shall it be done to the man who kills him. 28. Now Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, why have you come down? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumption and the evil of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle. And David said, what have I done now? What was it not but a word? And he turned away from him toward another and spoke in the same way. And the people answered him again as before. And I think just from these few verses that, David was motivated by the reward that he was going to receive when he killed Goliath. Even his eldest brother couldn't get in his way of finding out more about the reward because he really wanted to be sure. You don't want to do such a heavy lifting and then for nothing. So he was very, very okay in seeking at what would be the reward of getting into such a big undertaking. So you don't need to feel like you're weird. You're unique. You are an outlier as far as marriage is concerned. When you focus, when you concern yourself with the rewards of marriage, and nobody should discourage you. from pursuing the rewards of marriage, because marriage is very rewarding. Consequently, if you are getting into marriage, you need to find out about the rewards of marriage before you do get in. And if you are already in, like myself, you need to remind yourself of why you married or why you got married to your spouse. There must have been a reward, there must have been a motivation, that thing that made you, take that process, because that process of just getting to the point of saying, I do, it is itself a battle on its own. So you don't get into marriage to hurt your spouse, you don't get into marriage to get hurt. So I believe it was a good thing that you are motivated by, so that you can be in this marriage that you are in. Personally, my wife and I were motivated by the rewards that are outlined in Ecclesiastes, chapter 4, verse 9 to 12. In fact, that was our theme verse. That was the verse that we used in our wedding, because you look at the wordings of those verses, and that is what we were seeing for each other, that we would get in, and those are the benefits that then would accrue to the two of us. And so personally, I knew I had someone to cover my back. They would help me when I'm down, because that is what the verse says. So I knew if I go down, I have someone to help me back. If they go down, I am also there to do the same, to return the favor, because it's sort of like a merry-go-round. It is today, it is me, tomorrow it is you. I looked at it, apart from covering the back, because covering the back can also mean sharpening. And that is the theme of this ministry. Proverbs 27:17, that iron sharpens iron. So somebody sharpens another. So I looked at it as, when we get into this, then we're going to sharpen each other, and we're going to be the best versions of ourselves. And of course, it talks about keep warm. And I was looking at companionship, because, the month of July had gotten crazy as time got by. But this was a point where now I am looking at it and saying, now I'm going to be spending time with someone for the rest of my life, and we're going to keep each other warm. So we are talking about companionship. And I like what God says in Genesis 2:18, that, a man should not be alone. And so he fixes that situation by bringing in Eve. And when we talk about companionship, we have intimacy there. We're talking about sex. And I like what Paul says in First Corinthians chapter 7, verse 2 to 5, that uh, you get into marriage so that you can avoid temptation, so that you don't fall into immorality. And he's talking about these things so that people can understand it is a way of, if you're looking forward to intimacy, it is a way of getting that in marriage. He also talks about, being able to meet each other's conjugal needs or rights, if you want to use the word rights, but it's needs. And so he talks about that. I'm also looking at it that we were looking at each other as being each other's hero, because when we talk about helping each other, we are talking about, I'm looking at my wife as my hero, she's looking at me as the hero at that particular point. And then of course he talks about a cord of three, two are better than one, then it moves to three. A cord of three cannot be broken. And so we bring in God. We brought in God into this marriage. We included him before we got in. We are still working with him. And of course, we know that nobody can stop us. We know, and I am sure that we will continue to win, because we have God in the mix. I also read somewhere that when you are supported by your spouse, of course, he's talking about health, then you are likely to live long. I know there are other people that have tried to bring it out, like, is the married people that have a very short lifespan, but I beg to disagree. When you are in a healthy marriage, you will live long. That is a fact, and I think I will live to prove it by God's grace, of course. I also don't want to forget that people also marry for happiness. There are people that when they just settle down, they get happy. So that could be a motivation for you. You want to get happy, you think marriage is it, then you definitely can pursue that. And of course, again, there's another very strange benefit, but which I think I need to also mention, that marriage amplifies your character flaws. I look at Abigail, and this is a story in 1 Samuel chapter 25, because Abigail knew her husband's, flawed character. And when she went to David, she was very clear that this man has issues. And so it is, marriage amplifies that. But now, in her case, there was no room for them to be able to be, for him to be able to be better. And so I look at it like, when we come together, then we are able to that those characters amplify those flaws, and then we are able to deal with them. And so what we bring to the world after that is people that are giving the world the best of themselves. I can tell you for sure, I am always getting better and better. And so I teach a class, and I keep telling them, every class that I teach will always get a better version of what I have been teaching. And that is really what it is. That as you bring out those flaws, then you work on them, and you are able to be a better version of you, and you bring the very best to the world. And so it is a good thing. Very strange, but very interesting. Thirdly, First Samuel chapter 17, verse 31 to 40 reads, when the words that David spoke were heard, they repeated them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, you are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, and he has been a man of war from his youth. But David said to Saul, your servant used to keep sheep for his father. And when there came a lion or a bear and took a lamb from the flock, I went after him and struck him and delivered it out of his mouth. And if he rose against me, I caught him by his beard and struck him and killed him. Your servant has struck down both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, for he has defied the armies of the living God. And David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, go, and the Lord be with you. Then Saul clothed David with his armor. He put a helmet of bronze on his head, clothed him with a coat of mail, and David strapped his sword over his armor, and he tried in vain to go, for he had not tested them. Then David said to Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not tested them. So David put them off. Then he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones from the brook and put them in his shepherd's pouch. His sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistine. So what I want you to see there is that David was confident with himself. David was confident in his experience. He perceived that his experience was sufficient to hand him victory over Goliath. You need therefore to have confidence in yourself. When you are getting into marriage, when you are in marriage, you need to be confident, because I believe that the experience that you have gone through, the exposure that you have been exposed to, the education that you have gotten this far is sufficient for you to be able to win. And so everybody is a winner. I don't believe anybody is a loser as far as this is concerned. So you are up to the challenge, and you will be able to win. And I like that God uses what you have to make you win. He told Moses, what is it that is in your hand? And with that, he was able to do so much through Moses. You see, David is able to do much with what he had. So what you have, be confident in it. What God has given you, be confident in it, and you will win. That one I am sure of. And again, you, on the same point, you don't need to employ other people's untested strategies. There are people that come and tell you things, that this is what I do in my marriage, this is how marriage looks like. You just need to hear, but not take it to heart, because those are things you have not experienced. Those are things you have not tested. Some of those things are not even in scripture. They are not a template for marriage as far as God has provided for us. And so, very important that you believe in what you have, move with that, and I believe that you will have success. So you don't need to compare yourself to others. You don't need to compete with others, but you just need to move as yourself, and God will be with you. Number 4, First Samuel chapter 17, verse 45 to 47 reads as follows. Then David said to the Philistine, you come to me with a sword and with a spear and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, and the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head, and I will give the dead bodies of the host of the Philistines this day to the birds of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, and that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. 47. And that all these assembly may know that the Lord saves, not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hand. I like what David says. But essentially, David depended on God. And you too should depend on God as far as this journey, this institution that is very divine is concerned. I like his words because he says, it is not about even what I have. God, what I have is just part of it. But God is able to do, amazing things because he is a mighty God, because he can fight that battle for you. If you're going through a situation, he can fight it for you. If you are, you have a challenge, because I've talked about challenges will come, he can make you win because he fights for you and with you as far as that is concerned. You just need to trust in him and ask him for help and do marriage according to his word. I like Ephesians 5 because it talks about the two building blocks that I'm going to talk about as I finish. All about, love and respect. Those are the building blocks of marriage. I'm going to talk about it shortly. So, number 5, David dealt with Goliath the moment he heard of the trouble he had caused. You know, he heard of the words he had spoken. So you too should be able to talk out the issues that affect you and your spouse immediately they come up. Don't let issues pile up one after the other. You're not talking about it, you're not resolving those issues. And so they are the ones that build up and become what is commonly known as irreconcilable differences. So you find people have reached a point where they're saying we have irreconcilable differences. I'm asking myself, how did they get there? Simple. They did not deal with the issues immediately they came. So by the time, a long time has passed, you realize I cannot deal with this mountain because it's made up of anthills and all these kinds of things. So don't let issues, I like what the Bible says, don't let the sun go down before you deal with the matter of forgiveness and all that. So it's the same thing that applies. Make sure you deal with something not necessarily the same day, but as soon as possible, so that it doesn't build up and become a mountain that intimidates you and you cannot deal with it. So don't give up too soon as far as those things are concerned. Tackle them and you will win, because we are talking about winning. And finally, number 6, David took the matter of killing Goliath as an obligation or calling. Therefore, you can take your marriage as an obligation or calling. Some of us just take marriage as if it's just another thing in life. No, 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 no. Just the same way you say, I am looking for my calling. I know my calling. I want to pursue my calling. This is the same thing. This is one of the purposes of life that are very clear. You don't need to look so hard. God has provided a purpose for you, and it is in marriage. That's one of it. You need to find your other purpose in life. And so he when you take it from that point of view, then it's easy for you to be able to win, because then you start taking your spouse as a gift from God. And if he or she is a gift from God, then you will do your very best. And as you do this, you will be able to fulfill your obligation of providing or respecting this person, because that's what Ephesians 5 talks about: love and respect, provision and that kind of admiration or something like that. So that by being then intentional in everything concerning marriage, and especially these two big things that are in Ephesians 5, then you can be able to win. And of course, as you do these things of marriage, don't forget to laugh. A laugh is a good thing. So make sure that laughter is part and parcel of your marriage journey. And of course, you will win. So love is a product of those two things, And that is really what it is. I like what David does. He gets there, he feels burdened that I need to take care of this. And that's why I'm saying that when you get to that stage where you're saying I need to settle down, then you are considering marriage, you are already in marriage. It means that you can be able to now look at it as an obligation or a calling, and you will definitely win. So with those many remarks or few remarks, I want to bring this video to a close, and I want to pray that God blesses you, your spouse, and your marriage, and that you may stay in your marriage and win while you are at it. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. God bless you so much.